With over 400 million motorcycles and 30 million cars sold, Honda Motor Company is more than just a brand. It's an empire of speed, reliability, and Japanese engineering. In the world of motorcycling, its achievements border on the legendary. 8 victories in the grueling Dakar Rally, over 800 wins in the premier class of MotoGP, and the honor of being home to champions like Valentino Rossi and Marc Marquez. In motorsports, the Honda name also carries serious weight. Its historic partnership with McLaren in Formula One, powering the team during the era of the great Ayrton Senna, cemented its status among the elite of global racing. But behind this Japanese powerhouse, now rivaling giants like Toyota and Nissan, lies a deeply human story. A story of quiet sacrifices, repeated failures, and a fierce determination to never give up. Soichiro Honda, the relentless autodidact, the rebellious genius born among tools, who learned to build engines before he could even read a manual. He was expelled from technical school for poor grades, even rejected once by Toyota, and yet he achieved absolute recognition, so much so that he would come to be known as the Japanese Henry Ford. Today, we travel back to early 20th century Japan to rediscover the roots, the rise, and the legacy of Honda Motor, the company founded by a man who broke the rules, defied the system, and built, against all odds, one of the most valuable companies on earth. Our story begins on November 17, 1906, in Komyo, a small rural village in the city of Tenryu, Shizuoka Prefecture, Japan. Soichiro Honda was born into a humble household, where life was defined by simplicity and hard work. His mother worked as a weaver, and his father, Gihei Honda, was the local blacksmith, known throughout the community for his skill with tools. That environment allowed young Soichiro to grow up surrounded by gears, bolts, and iron scraps. But his destiny was truly forged the day his father built a small makeshift bicycle repair shop under a wooden shed. At the turn of the 20th century, bicycles were becoming an accessible mode of transport in a rapidly modernizing Japan. For Soichiro, this wasn't just a trend, it was a classroom. While other children played outside, he immersed himself in the mysteries of the workshop, tirelessly taking bikes apart and putting them back together, captivated by the silent language of mechanics. It was there that a defining moment took place. One afternoon, on his way home from school, he saw a car for the very first time, a Ford Model T, solemnly making its way down a dirt road. As the car disappeared into the distance, Soichiro knelt down to inhale the lingering scent of oil and gasoline. It was the most exquisite aroma I had ever smelled, he would recall years later. Ironically, his passion for machines didn't translate to academic success. He was a rebellious, distracted student, far more interested in practical work than theoretical lessons. On one occasion, he even carved a fake parental seal out of a piece of bicycle rubber to forge his report card. The trick was so effective, he began lending it to classmates until he was inevitably caught. At the age of 15, with no diploma and only determination in his pocket, Soichiro made a bold decision. He left his village and moved to Tokyo. In 1922, against all odds, he was accepted as an apprentice at Art Shokai, one of the city's most prestigious workshops, founded by the renowned Sakakibara brothers. It was far from glamorous. The hours were long, the pay nearly non-existent, and his real compensation was just a roof over his head and a little food on the table. He was tasked with keeping the shop spotless, and even babysitting one of his boss's children. For most, this would have felt degrading. Not for Soichiro. He never complained. To him, being in the workshop was like being in a temple. He slept on the floor, arrived first, and left last. He wanted to absorb everything. "Your workplace is your school," he would later say. "And the best part is, they even pay you for it." During those years, he mastered the repair of motorcycle and European car engines, luxuries reserved only for the wealthy. His talent for diagnosing problems, improving performance, and coming up with creative solutions did not go unnoticed. Yuzo Sakakibara, one of the two founders, quickly recognized his potential and made Soichiro his right-hand man, gradually assigning him more complex responsibilities and including him in special projects. Together, they built a race car using an engine from a Curtiss airplane. In 1924, at just 18 years old, a thrill-seeking Soichiro raced the car in a major competition, and astonishingly, won. That victory earned him recognition, and his reputation as a mechanic skyrocketed. Soichiro remained devoted to the Sakakibara brothers' shop until 1928. At 22, they entrusted him with a major responsibility: to open and manage a new branch of Art Shokai in Hamamatsu, Shizuoka. Soichiro returned to his home region, not as the curious teenager who had left, but as a seasoned mechanic, now carrying the weight of leadership on his shoulders. Taking over a workshop branch at just 22 was a monumental challenge. Many saw Soichiro Honda as an impulsive young man, too immature to lead. But stubborn and relentless, he worked day and night, turning that small branch into the most profitable one in the company. To boost his reputation, he continued racing cars in his free time. At the same time, his family urged him to resume his studies to strengthen his theoretical knowledge. Half-heartedly, Soichiro enrolled at the Hamamatsu Technical School, but ended up dropping out. He outright refused to take the final exams. For him, learning was far more valuable than passing tests. He was expelled again, solidifying his path as a self-taught man. If theory truly inspired creativity, then every teacher would be an inventor, he would later declare. In 1936, his love for racing nearly cost him his life. He crashed at 75 miles per hour during a race near the Tama River. He suffered multiple fractures and received a harsh diagnosis: color blindness. At the plea of his father and wife, he gave up racing as a driver, but not engines. His focus and business drive only intensified. By then, he had spent nearly a decade at Art Shokai, but his restless spirit was no longer content with just managing a branch and repairing cars. He wanted to create. He identified a gap in the market: piston rings. High demand, poor quality. He presented his idea to his mentors, the Sakakibara brothers, but their response was cold rejection. So, along with his friend Shichiro Kato, Soichiro founded Tokai Seiki Heavy Industry. Now, a young entrepreneur brimming with confidence, he applied to become a supplier for Toyota Motor Company, which at the time was beginning development of its first mass-produced car. He presented directly to Kiichiro Toyoda, the man behind what would become Japan's automotive giant. The result, however, was devastating: a total failure. Of the 50 piston rings he delivered, only 3 passed the quality tests. The rest were rejected for not meeting Toyota's strict standards. But Soichiro didn't give up. For 2 years, he lived like a man possessed, obsessively redesigning rings, studying metallurgy. He even went back to classes at the Hamamatsu Institute, not for diplomas, but just to attend the lectures that interested him. He traveled across Japan, visiting factories and steelworks, refining his craft. His family noticed. The toll of his sacrifice showed in his tired face. Finally, in 1939, his perseverance paid off. His second presentation was a success. Not only did he become a primary supplier for Toyota, but also for Nakajima Aircraft and Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. Tokai Seiki grew rapidly, employing around 2,000 workers. But the war changed everything. In 1941, the Imperial Japanese Army forced the company to manufacture military equipment. As the war dragged on, male labor became scarce. Soichiro had to recalibrate every machine himself. During this period, he invented an automatic milling machine for wooden propellers, which quadrupled productivity compared to traditional methods, an invention that impressed industrial figures like Keiichi Kawakami, then president of Nippon Gaki, today's Yamaha. A major turning point in Soichiro's life came in 1944, when an Allied bombing raid destroyed his main factory. With his own funds, he rebuilt it in a matter of months, only for the Nankai earthquake of 1945 to finish the job and destroy it completely. Devastated, he sold what little remained to Toyota for 450,000 yen at the time and stepped away from the business world. He entered a year-long retreat filled with alcohol, disillusionment, and deep reflection. After the war, Japan lay in total ruin, and Soichiro found himself trapped in the labyrinth of an uncertain future. Japan emerged from the war poorer than ever. Cities lay in ruins, and resources were scarce. Amid this desolation, Soichiro Honda saw a spark of opportunity. He opened a small workshop in Hamamatsu and gave it an ambitious name, Honda Technical Research Institute. Most Japanese people could only get around by bicycle. Motorcycles existed, yes, but they were a luxury far beyond reach for a devastated population. Ever the tinkerer, Soichiro adapted a tiny two-stroke engine, originally designed for military radios, and mounted it on a bicycle. The fuel tank? A simple rubber bag reused from a hot water bottle. And so, a rudimentary 1-horsepower vehicle was born, which in 1947 would evolve into the Honda Type A. Nicknamed Choo Choo for its peculiar sound, it sold over 1,500 units. That modest success led Soichiro to rename his workshop in 1948, Honda Motor Company. A giant had been born, with just 34 employees. But today's Honda wouldn't exist without Takeo Fujisawa. A visionary in finance, marketing, and business development, Fujisawa became Honda's indispensable partner. Their alliance, forged in 1949, allowed Soichiro to focus entirely on what he loved: inventing. Together, they formed one of the most formidable duos in Japanese automotive history. That same year, they launched their first fully Honda-built motorcycle, the Dream D-Type. The curious name came from an employee who exclaimed, "It was a dream to finish it." Though its bulky design limited sales, the path was set. In 1951, the arrival of the E-Type marked a turning point. A quiet, efficient, and reliable 4-stroke engine. To avoid bank loans, Fujisawa designed an unprecedented business model: selling production in advance. By securing liquidity through contracts with dealers, Honda had found its formula. By 1955, Honda Motor had become Japan's largest motorcycle manufacturer. But true glory came in 1958 with the launch of the Super Cub. Its simple design, modest price, and unmatched reliability made it a global phenomenon. With over 30,000 units sold in its first year, the Super Cub remains in production today and holds the title of best-selling motor vehicle in history. Riding that momentum, Honda entered the U.S. market in 1959, but the Los Angeles branch faced a cultural wall. In America, motorcycles were seen as rebellious, tied to gangs and outlaws. Honda shattered that image in 1963 with a bold marketing campaign. "You meet the nicest people on a Honda." The message broke stereotypes. Now, motorcycles were for students, housewives, and everyday workers. The success was immediate. Meanwhile, Soichiro remained obsessed with another dream: racing and winning. In 1954, he told his staff, "Now that we are a solid company, we will race, and we will win the World Championship." They entered the Isle of Man TT in 1959, the world's most prestigious motorcycle race. Though they didn't win, all 4 bikes completed the brutal course, proving their reliability. In 1961, they returned with the RC160 and took the titles in both the 125cc and 250cc categories. Since then, Honda has dominated the racetrack with over 800 World Championship victories across MotoGP, Moto2, and Moto3. But one final goal remained: that childhood memory of watching a Ford Model T pass by still lived in Soichiro's mind. He was ready for the next step: to build the very first automobile in Honda's history. As Japan rebuilt itself from the ashes, the Ministry of Trade pushed for industrial consolidation. Only major firms like Toyota or Nissan were to receive resources. But Soichiro Honda and Takeo Fujisawa, true to their rebellious spirit, found a different path. Not to compete head-on, but to conquer the forgotten niches left behind by the giants. June 5, 1962, marked a milestone. At Honda's 11th General Assembly, Soichiro unveiled the S360, a tiny sports car that revealed the company's automotive ambitions. Though it never made it to production, it lit the spark. The real breakthrough came in October, at the Tokyo Motor Show, with the S500 and the T360 mini truck. The S500 featured a 531 cubic centimeter, 4-cylinder engine revving at 9,500 revolutions per minute, and an unusual chain drive system, a direct inheritance from Honda's motorcycle DNA. It wasn't a commercial hit, but it sent a clear message: Honda had entered the 4-wheel world. In 1965, the company aimed even higher, debuting in Formula One, and within just 2 years, clinching its first victory at the Mexican Grand Prix, beating out Ferrari and Lotus. The message was clear: they didn't just build bikes, they could win car races too. In 1967, Honda launched the N360, a compact, fuel-efficient, and affordable utility car that allowed the company to break into the territory of Japan's automotive giants. The following decade brought the oil crisis, shaking the global automotive industry. While Japan's major automakers agreed to cut production and raise prices to cater only to wealthier buyers, Honda did the opposite. It doubled production and slashed costs. As a result, its U.S. sales soared by 76%, while competitors saw an average decline of 40%. Its champion during the crisis was the 1973 Honda Civic, featuring the CVCC engine, clean, reliable, and the first to meet U.S. emission standards without a catalytic converter. That breakthrough changed the industry, forcing giants like Ford and Chrysler to follow Honda's lead. But not everyone admired Honda's ingenuity. At General Motors, a top executive dismissed it, saying, "Honda's technology works well for bikes, not for real cars." So Soichiro responded, not with words but with action. He bought a Chevy Impala, shipped it to Japan, swapped in a CVCC engine, and passed the EPA's emissions test, forcing GM to admit Honda's brilliance. Lesson learned: actions speak louder than words. In 1976, Honda launched the Accord, a true bestseller that still holds the record for the most wins and nominations in Car and Driver's 10 Best Cars list. Around this time, Soichiro Honda and Takeo Fujisawa stepped down, handing leadership to Kiyoshi Kawashima. In Japan, this sparked criticism. Culturally, companies were expected to be passed down to heirs, but Soichiro had full trust in Kiyoshi and kept his own family out of corporate decisions. "Leadership belongs to those with the talent and skill to lead," he declared. He also faced criticism for disregarding degrees or diplomas when hiring. Soichiro cared more about attitude and dedication than formal credentials. He did things his own way, defying Japan's rigid social standards, and winning. After announcing his retirement, he remained active in life, from skiing and racing to hang gliding and ballooning. But by the late 1980s, his health began to decline. On August 5, 1991, Soichiro Honda passed away at age 84. His death echoed around the world. Formula One legend Ayrton Senna dedicated his win that weekend to Honda's founder, highlighting the deep connection between the company and the world of motorsport. The Japanese genius left an extraordinary legacy: 470 inventions, 150 patents, honorary doctorates from Michigan Technological University and Ohio State University, and distinguished honors like the Grand Cordon of the Order of the Rising Sun, Japan's highest decoration, and his induction into the Automotive Hall of Fame in 1989. After the passing of its great visionary, Honda Motor Company continued its path, relentlessly pushing the boundaries of innovation. In the 1980s, they once again shook the automotive world with the introduction of VTEC technology, a system that optimized engine performance by delivering fuel efficiency at low RPMs and full power when pushed to the limit. This philosophy evolved into IVTEC, integrating eco-conscious engineering with the power drivers demand today. In 1986, Honda launched Acura, the first Japanese premium brand. Its mission? To compete directly with BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi. It marked Honda's first real move into the world of luxury vehicles. That same decade saw another major milestone. Honda became the first Japanese automaker to build its own production plant in the United States, choosing Ohio as its base. This move transformed Japan's industrial presence in North America forever. In the 1990s, Honda unveiled the legendary NSX, a V6 aluminum supercar packed with racing technology, designed to challenge and inspire the European elite. As the millennium approached, Honda entered the hybrid era with the Insight, one of the first mass-produced hybrid cars, setting the stage for a new wave of eco-mobility. The 21st century expanded Honda's industrial frontiers. In 2006, the company took to the skies with the HondaJet, officially entering the aviation world. Even today, it soars as a symbol of futuristic ambition. In robotics, Honda introduced the iconic Asimo, a humanoid designed to assist the elderly and those with limited mobility. Although development ceased in 2018, Asimo remains a technological emblem and source of inspiration. At home, Honda innovated with the smart home system, introduced in 2012, enabling efficient energy management. And during the pandemic, they launched the Honda E, their first fully electric compact vehicle built for the cities of tomorrow. Yet, at the heart of Honda Motor, the racing spirit still beats strong. With over 800 victories in World Motorcycle and Auto Racing Championships, from 125 cubic centimeters to MotoGP, they continue to dominate the tracks, carrying forward the momentum from that first win at the Isle of Man in 1961. In Formula One, their legacy is alive and well. As engine suppliers for iconic teams like McLaren and Red Bull Racing, Honda has once again tasted victory at the pinnacle of motorsport. Today, Honda employs over 200,000 people, operates in more than 150 countries, and boasts a market capitalization of nearly $50 billion. What began as a small workshop run by a self-taught engineer and the survivor of early failures became a global symbol that dreams built with grit can become empires. Soichiro Honda proved it. With perseverance, ingenuity, and tenacity, dreams can gain traction and take flight. Looking back on my work, I feel I did nothing but make mistakes, blunders, and serious omissions, but I am proud of my achievements. Even though I failed time and time again, my mistakes were never for the same reason. Soichiro Honda. And so we conclude the extraordinary story of Honda Motor Company, forged under the guidance of an irreplaceable genius, a man who not only revolutionized the motorcycle industry and not only challenged the giants of the automotive world, but did it all by confronting the rules of a traditional society that seemed to have no place for dreamers. If you're a fan of Honda or the world of motorsports, don't forget to leave us your thoughts in the comments. And if this story pulled you in, you might want to discover how a small Japanese company survived an atomic bomb and became the very symbol of an entire city's rebirth, Mazda Motors. See you in the next video.